listen. Hello and welcome everyone to our segment number 4 of Sister Talk, First Ladies Tea Time. I have my sisters with me. Welcome, welcome. Thank you again for joining us. As always, my sisters are with me this evening, and together we are here to support you. Because this is Mental Health Month, we have a special sister friend with us that's going to be joining us. So let's go around. Let's welcome everybody. Let's everyone introduce themselves again. Let's introduce our special sister friend.
Hello, I am Reverend Jeanne Taylor, and I'm a marriage and family therapist associate, and I am honored to be here with you tonight.
Welcome.
And then I am Anita Frazier. With I'm back. I missed last time, but I'm back. Thank you for having me, First Lady.
We are happy you're here.
And I am Miss Stacy Holmes, and you all know who I am. Good to see you all, and thank you for joining.
Okay, so what type of tea is everybody drinking tonight?
I have honey and ginger.
Okay.
I have ginger turmeric.
Ooh, ginger turmeric.
I am drinking Mercedes Gonzalez by Naya Tea.
Yes, a shameless plug for my nephew's tea company, Naya Tea. Till tonight, I am drinking Calypso, and I'm drinking iced tea. So,
ooh, that sounds good.
To everyone out there who's either drinking hot or iced tea. So tonight, can a sister get some mental health? We're going to talk about misconceptions, hidden signs, and church culture. With that, let's get to it. Reality.
Oh. Always do it. Look,
so reality.
I always miss the signal.
I told myself I was going to work on it this time. I'm sorry. I gotta do better with the people.
So, that's all right. A great article in NPR Morning Edition, and they talked about from camping to dining out how experts rate the 14 highest summer activities. So did anybody see that article on NPR about what are different risks? Who went out this weekend? Did anybody go anywhere?
I didn't see the article, but I'm going to tell myself a little bit. I did venture out the doors, but it wasn't. We drove down to Malibu, stayed in the car. We didn't go out, but we saw so many people out in the water, on the sand, as if it was like an ultimate summer beach day. As if Corona never existed.
Were they wearing? Did anybody have on masks?
That's the thing, barely. I can see a few people, but it wasn't like it didn't matter to them. I was like, whoa,
wow,
bold out here.
I was in Pasadena.
What about you, Stacey? You go out anywhere? Oh, you were in Pasadena, Jeanne?
Yes, I was in Pasadena, and quite a few people had masks on. I was actually pleasantly surprised because I live in the Inland Empire, and it's kind of sporadic as far as mask wearing. But in Pasadena, I would say 80 to 90% of the people had on a mask.
That's actually not too bad. What about you, Stacey?
No, it's
actually good.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's really good. Well, I went on a family bike ride, and we went riding from the marina down to a little bit further past Dockwaller, 12-mile bike ride with the family. Mm-hmm. We did not wear masks as we were riding our bikes, but we were following the guidelines prescribed for the beach. We did have our mask with us, however, And so a number of the riders were not wearing masks. It's kind of difficult to ride, and especially long distances, and have your mask on. But when we did go, we went to El Torito's afterwards. We did wear our mask, and everyone in line, of course, was required to wear a mask to receive service. So we did wear our mask to receive our service.
Now, were you guys eating? Did you guys eat inside or outside?
We ate at home, so we brought it home,
Okay.
and we ate outside at home. Yeah.
Okay. You know, that's interesting. You were talking about a bike ride. There was a story, as you can tell, I'm an NPR junkie. There was a story at NPR that bikes are not available anywhere.
I heard that.
In my office that are looking for bikes. Yeah, you cannot find a bike anywhere unless you want to spend like over $1,000. And that is because they said part of it is because everybody bought a bike when COVID hit. And the second reason is because there's so many, which I didn't even think about, there's so many different parts that go into the assembly of a bike. So there's an impact on the supply chain, which I thought was really interesting. I didn't think about that, a bike would take, that many parts. But yes, again, we've learned something new today.
I mean,
so
I guess
like when I was talking to you,
cars.
Exactly. Exactly. So I was looking at the article I was telling you guys. So did anybody go to a backyard barbecue with one other household or anything this weekend?
Well, I'm guilty, but it was our family again, and we did have a backyard barbecue with our family. So, and there were 10 of us, and we did practice social distancing. But it was my father-in-law, my sister-in-law, and her family, and myself and my family. So we did have a family barbecue, backyard boogie this week.
Well, according to this article, having a backyard gathering with one other household is a low to medium risk. And the only thing that alters that risk is drinking and sharing utensils, of course. The other thing I thought that was really, what were you gonna say?
Oh, go ahead. I saw a list as well of the risks, and that is one of the things that we did consider, considering that my father-in-law is older and my mom is older. But my mom said she already had the COVID, so she all right.
There you go, Mama.
It's so funny. It's so funny
what my
how,
mama
like,
said.
Isn't it funny how you notice, like, our parents always put it's like the Facebook.
right.
It's the COVID.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. My stepmother in Kansas, she calls it the Roni. I said, it's not cute, Mama.
Or the Rona. Or it's the Rona.
Right. The Rona.
Yeah. My daughter calls it the Rona, but she called it the Roni.
Yeah, the Roni. I said, it's not cute. It's not the Roni.
No.
This is not a food item.
That's funny.
So the other thing they said was a low to medium risk, which I thought was really interesting, was using a public restroom, which is interesting that that's a low risk, considering that, to me, using a public restroom is a high risk anyway, because most of the time they don't even have soap, and they have water but no soap. So no, we even talk about those. I actually used
a public restroom when we went to Malibu, but it was, it wasn't like a beach bathroom or anything like that. It was actually in a nice area. It looked like it was like an abandoned not abandoned. It's the place that the shops have been closed, so nobody's been using it. It was actually really clean. I went in, gloved up with all my wipes handy, ready to pull them all out of everywhere, to pull them out.
Yes.
So, but it was. I was a little testy.
Well, on the beach, ironically, my daughter, of course, had to go use the restroom when we went on our bike ride. And so the restrooms were open. They had attendants at the restrooms, and they were cleaning the restrooms after every use. So it was only one person allowed in at a time, and they were cleaning the bathroom after every use. So we felt pretty safe going in and using the restroom.
Well, that's good. I think like they
It
should
is.
implement that on a regular basis, and when it comes to like either restrooms like that, not just
Right.
Yes.
for this, because those are the most dirtiest bathrooms.
I know, and that's interesting because I was thinking about what you said, Anita, about its location of like where you were. You were in Malibu as opposed to being in the hood.
Right.
But
And that's sad.
the-
But that's sad though. That's
Right.
sad.
right.
It is
But
sad.
but the other thing, it's super sad. But the other thing is that I wonder, like after you heard about Garcetti's all his cuts, Newsom's all the cuts, and they're talking about cutting staff of Parks and Recs. What impact is that going to have during the summer on making sure that the bathrooms are clean and that they're cleaning up the public public areas where you're sitting. I think it's going to be very interesting to see how that plays out
Right.
this summer.
Because I even get a little apprehensive at work, and it's hard to go in, so it's not open to the public. However, you're just not sure about the people and and their hygiene, and so and there have been stories where people, unfortunately, have contracted the virus because of a restroom with key cards. So I find myself with paper towels, leaving the restroom and going into the restroom and washing my hands before and after and before I go into my office. And so it makes me nervous, but I can't not go. I just have to really just focus.
Right. I mean, and it's interesting because I also talk about what impact this is going to have on the environment. Because people aren't driving and it's just so many trucks. But I'm thinking like you said, Dejan, I go to the bathroom, I have a paper towel, I wash I'm washing my hands for 30 seconds, then I'm grabbing another paper towel, and I'm touching the door, and you just wonder, what impact that's gonna have, because I'm sure you and I aren't the only ones that are doing that,
Right.
Absolutely.
But I think that and then the last thing I wanted to talk about is just getting a haircut is a medium to high risk. So I guess I'll be having this a little while longer.
You better learn how to do them house cuts.
Right.
You take a bow and you place it on top of your head and you trim around the edges.
I've been watching the YouTube videos. I don't know.
Do it. Don't do it, sis. Don't do it.
I'm comfortable that is not my skill set. I will just wait it out another month, and maybe I'll go in July. Because
There you go.
Right.
I can't do it now. I can't.
But I'm seeing these people out there with these fresh haircuts. So I'm saying, where y'all going? But they going to people's houses, clearly, or
Yeah.
Well, some
Sneaking-
people.
Well,
Some
my
people
colleague
make-
said my colleague stylist moved from a shop, and she converted a part of her garage because she was concerned about just the cleanliness and how often the owner was going to clean, and there was so much hesitation with her clientele, so she converted part of her garage, and she's seeing folks doing which is interesting. You're not gonna see folks all piled up anymore, so she does one person start to finish,
Right.
deodorizes, then the next person comes in.
Right. And it's my
So-
understanding that cosmetologists, they actually they have courses in being sanitary. And so me and talking with them, they are really upset because they are trained in making sure that their areas and whatnot are sanitized. And so they're really upset because they can't make a living, and they're one of the ones who have been trained in it, where other people, like some restaurants or other places, are not able to be open.
Right. That's very true.
Yeah. I guess we'll be looking at this a little while longer.
Well, I think they're just as much trained as these dental offices or medical offices. They have they go this OSHA training and all kinds of stuff. So that's crazy that is. I didn't even think about that. Not at all.
Yeah, and just like I thought it was interesting, you blame it on the nail salons. I'm like, yeah. That's
Well,
the whole other story.
now, sometime, hold on. Now,
Sometimes.
sometimes them little ladies in there are guilty for using them utensils on more than one person.
Okay, I gotta give you
Yes.
that. That is true.
Yes.
That is
Using
true.
that, not cleaning, not wiping that bowl out. Not saying
Right.
all, but some people there have been instances where you go get your toes done, your big toe hurt, and it's going green underneath because they used something that they was not supposed to.
Anita went wavy.
She said green. Not
No,
just
and I'm-
green.
She didn't even say her.
Green is
I think you're right, but I don't think that they got a bad rep. I don't think COVID came from getting your
No.
nails done. It came from, I think, well, we don't, that would be a whole nother segment. But I think that's,
I'm talking for a friend.
speaking for a friend. But I think we're gonna use that segue of the psychological warfare of nail shops
No.
Oh goodness.
and the impact that they have on us. I think we're gonna go into our segue and just and talk about and we're gonna turn everything over to our Jeanne. So here's to you, Jeanne, as we segue into spirituality.
Spirituality and mental health, or spirituality? Which one are we? Are we doing both?
We're doing all, because I
All
think
of it.
because I think there's just so much there's so much of a misconception, and I think it's so important for our sisters that watch us to see not only a successful sister as yourself, but also someone who loves the Lord and who's doing the Lord's work.
Amen.
Absolutely. And I thank you for that. And I do love the Lord, but I also love and I'm passionate about psychotherapy and talk therapy. And I really think that it is an important topic for our sisters out there, because we do struggle with trying to understand how we balance the two. And talk therapy is really about sharing your experiences and venting. The important part about sharing your experiences and venting when you want to mix the spirituality is it would be our responsibility to find a Christian counselor if that is something that you're feeling like spirituality and mental health don't mix. If you got to, some people say, then you don't need mental health professionals, because Jesus will, if you pray enough, Jesus will take care of it. But I also believe that when we talk about gifts, that God gives people gifts so that they have the ability to help people. Just as God gives our pastors the gift to preach the word and the gifts to administer church activities and church buildings and church in and of itself, I think we all have the gifts. And my gift is mental health. And it saddens me the top reasons why our sisters don't seek mental health. And one of the big ones is the stigma of it means you're crazy. Some people years ago would say, I had an uncle who would check himself in and out of Patton when he was feeling like he was gonna have a moment, and when he took enough medication and he felt like back in the day where you could check yourself in and check yourself out, he would check himself out. But what I found was, even in that, they never said what it was. They just said that he was going away from the trial. They didn't say that he was seeking help. And I think that's part of one of the stigmas that we deal with. I think one of the other top stigmas is fear of finding out either what you already know and you don't want to do anything about, or fear of what you, and then there's an accountability to do something based on what you find out. And that can be daunting, and that can be very fearful. That can put us in a space of panic, because if we've lived our lives this way and sometimes dysfunction, our dysfunction becomes normal. In my house, we call it our comfortable position of bondage. We are uncomfortable in that space.
Oh, wow.
Yes. Comfortable position of bondage. You know that you're not comfortable, but you are not willing to take the steps to be comfortable, which seeking therapy or talking to a friend or talking to someone, which causes that unwillingness to change. And it's very difficult when you're in a space of sadness and fear and despair to know what to do. A supervisor of mine told me once, that people want to change as much as they want to stay the same. Most people and sisters want to change because we want something new. But the fear of jumping into that and actually analyzing ourselves and then allowing someone else to be that person who hears our story and then helps us interpret our story is not something that we're always comfortable with. A friend said she did a TED Talk, and her name is Tammy Denise, and she's the founder of Carrie's Touch. And if you get an opportunity to go on YouTube and see her speak, she speaks about what she calls it toxic strength.
Yes, I saw that. It was good. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and she speaks about how African-American women and women in general, but right now we're talking about sisters, we have this thing called toxic strength. We've always been told if it don't kill you, it'll make you stronger.
Right.
It will kill you. It won't make you stronger. And so what happens with us is we equate this toxic strength to resilience, and it's not healthy for us because we're told as women that we have to be the nurturers, the caretakers, and we have to be the backbone, and we have to be strong. And so we flock to church so that we can gain our strength, so we can go on and do these things, not understanding that we need a therapist sometimes to help us navigate the waters of all the things that we encounter in our lives, all the things that come at us. I mean, none of us have ever been in a pandemic before. None of us have ever been in a space where you have been mandated to stay at home. None of us have ever been in a space where you are deemed essential, and so you don't get to stay at home. You get to go to work, which feels like you're putting your life in jeopardy because there are no answers out there. And all of those things require us to, they invoke some form of fear, uncomfortableness, depression, anxiety, and they demand at some point in our lives, all of us are going to need to talk to somebody about this time, this history that we are a part of and are and living in right now. And so the reasons why we don't seek help is will kill us if we don't seek help.
Well, let me ask you this. Well, then what would you say to someone who's watching, and even us who's, in this chat room listening to you? What would you tell someone that thinks that going to a therapist is a sign of weakness, or just like sisters, what are some of the stigmas that you've heard about, like seeking help, seeking mental health support?
That you're crazy if you go,
Mm-hmm.
Why are you going to speak to somebody you don't know? Why are you going to, like my grandma, I come from a Baptist background. My grandma is very, you don't speak to strangers about your problems, or speak to anybody that's not in the family about your problems.
Right. Or the, the one that I grew up, house business, house business stays in the house.
Exactly.
Right.
Right. And the house business can be toxic. The house business can be dysfunction. And once again, that's that comfortable position of bondage. We're not going to tell nobody, but we're going to live in it, and we don't know how to fix it. And so we're going to die with it.
What do you think
for
some
us
of
to understand that we don't have to suffer in silence anymore.
Right.
So what do you think, what are some of the things you tell someone? What if someone was listening right now and you do have this opportunity to tell them, what are some of the top reasons that you don't see, besides, you talked about the toxicity, we talked about the stigma, and then we haven't really talked so much about seeking your clergy person as your therapist instead of actually seeking a mental health therapist.
Sometimes we seek our clergy people for services because we feel comfortable with them. We see them on Sunday. We know they're not threatening. We hear them, and they speak our language. They speak our spiritual language. They speak our God language. They speak our Jesus language. And so that's a level of comfort. When you walk into a therapist's office and they ask you a series of questions, maybe a pastor doesn't ask you a series of questions because that's an assessment, because they need to know how they need to meet you where you are in the space as a therapist. Clergy people, if they're not trained in counseling, then technically they shouldn't be counseling people from a mental health perspective, but more so from a spiritual perspective. And sometimes we combine the two because that makes us feel better. I don't have to worry about seeing a stranger, and I can tell my pastor, and my pastor will hold it for me, and then we'll pray about it, and then God will change it. And so it makes it very difficult for us to move out of that space of trust, because a lot of it has to do with trust as well.
Well, I think you made a good point, and I think that's a great segment to talk about prayer and how I think some of us fall back on saying that if I just pray enough about it, whatever is going on with me and my mental health, I can pray it away. Right. I mean, sisters, Anita and Stacy, jump in at any time, because have you heard that, as well?
Yes.
Yeah.
We have one of our viewers, Tony Maury. She commented just about that specific thing. She commented about having, like, a lot of believers believe that God can fix everything. And so, just praying or just giving it to God is enough. And we don't feel the need to seek outside help. My response to that is that God has blessed us and others with gifts, and some have been blessed with the gift of counseling. And if He blessed you with the gift of counseling and comfort and service, then it is up to us to seek out those persons that He's blessed with those gifts. So it goes beyond prayer. Faith without works is what? Dead.
Yeah, exactly.
So it goes beyond praying. You have to take some kind of action. And so you have to seek out those persons who have been blessed with that gift of counseling and spiritual guidance and comfort, so that you can be with others in your healing process.
Absolutely.
I think that's what it is. A lot of people are afraid to seek help, or afraid. And I can speak from, personally myself, like, if someone, like, I thought about, like, what, I think it's speak to someone. It's like, no, I don't want to, because what is my family going to think about me if I'm speaking to somebody? And they're going to ask me why I'm speaking. Like, you okay? You're not crazy. You don't have problems. Like, you don't even speak to anybody. And then I think about my sister. My sister, for years, my older sister, from her 20s to 30s, she's always said she's had battle with anxiety and depression. My father never took her serious. And that made her more upset that he didn't want to listen. And now he's older. And now he's actually came around to her, and they had a whole conversation about, like, he understands, because now he's hitting to a point where he's battling some mental health issues. And so I was like, wow, it was like it was like a whole breakthrough with him. But people are afraid.
Yeah, the stigma and the fear will keep us stunted and stuck in a space where we don't move. And your father, men sometimes are conditioned to fix it. And so if I can't fix it, then I don't know what to do with it. And so, but then when we start to experience it, which, there are a multitude of triggers and symptoms that we have grown up with, thinking that it was, a blah day. Well, a blah day is one thing, but a blah week or a blah 2 weeks or a blah month, that's something altogether different. And then that rolls into, I don't want to get out of bed. That rolls into, I don't want to eat. Or that rolls into, I want to eat it all. I want to eat all my feelings, because that's the indication of feeling bad. But then you don't feel well after you've eaten all those things, because either you don't feel well physically or you don't look well physically, and then it becomes a snowball effect. One thing moves into another thing. And then, the non-sleeping. And so when I can't sleep, then I go downstairs to the fridge, and then I sit in front, and it becomes this mushroom effect of depression and anxiety and fear that consumes us. And it consumes our relationships as well. And then our relationships start to suffer. Some of us sisters don't even realize that we're grieving. Grieving that we can't go to the shop. Grieving that we can't go to the beach. Grieving that we can't see people that we love. Grieving that we can't hug. Those are all the things that matter to us as people that we struggle with during this time, but even not during this time, just in general. And you can't, it takes a village, yes, but it also takes a professional to assist you in navigating. Not necessarily do therapists tell you what to do. They just afford you the opportunity to explore your life with, so you can figure out what's gonna work for you and what's not gonna work.
Well, what happens, Reverend Jeanne, when you have an experience that alters the way you feel about seeking therapy? I'm looking in our chat room, and I see I was just going to comment on that. Yes, Sister Rania Crockett Williams, she saw a therapist once, and she needed therapy, and that was her comment. I'm just wondering, what happens to those who have experiences with a therapist that kind of take them in another direction, that makes them stray away from getting help even more?
The best analogy I can give is, and it's the best for me. I love shoes, and there are shoes that you can only sit in. There are shoes you can walk in. There are shoes you can run in. There are shoes you can dance in, and there are shoes that you only gonna wear one time. For me, when you're searching for a therapist, it's the same analogy. Some people you just don't click with. It's kind of like the analogy with hair. You find somebody who does your hair the way you like, the way you love, they work with you, then they got you for life. But if you find somebody who cut it wrong and did it, or put the wrong color and it didn't come out right, then you don't go back to them. And the therapist is the same. You get to shop for someone who's going to assist you, not someone who's going to tell you what you want to hear, but someone who's really going to be available and knowledgeable, and someone, if they're a Christian counselor, that they know the Lord and they can help you discern between the spiritual space and the mental space. Bad experiences can taint our whole life experience, but part of that is moving out of that, trusting, having enough faith to shop and look and find the one that fits for you.
I think, Jeanne, I think you hit it on the head, because you're not going to click with everybody. I mean, it's just like when, like you said, when you get your hair done, or when you're, when you're going to some event and you're paired up with somebody, you're not always going to click with, whoever you happen to engage with. And I think, like you said, you have to spend that time. It sucks, just like finding the right doctor, but a therapist is a doctor for your mind, and you got to take, you have to take that same time. With that, I was thinking about why don't you think that, first I wanted to, let's talk about, like, what are some of the trigger signs that you should pay attention to, that you need, that maybe I need to seek some professional help with?
Right. Well, there's several, and I'm going to give a few. There's sleeping too much or not, or there's eating too much or poor appetite. There's irritability, and irritability can come from a multitude of things. However, if your irritability is long-standing, if there's no joy any place in this irritable space, a day, a week, a month, then you may need to seek some assistance. Difficult with regulating your emotions. For some of us who are in the menopause stage, we're trying to figure out if it's menopause or if it's emotional or or I'm just having a bad day. And so part of that is being able to, if you're tearful day in and day out or every other day, and that's not normally how you respond to situations, you may need to go seek some professional help. If you're not performing effectively at home or at work, that might be a sign that you need to seek professional help. And when I say performing, if you go to work and you want to get there to get away from, or what I call it is, what do you want to get away from and what do you want to get to? And so if you want to get away from home, but then when you get home, you're still not happy, you may need to seek professional help. Trauma from our childhood, from a past situation. Right now we're experiencing trauma. And we're not even aware. When we have a friend who tells us, I got to share something with you, you know, I've been sexually assaulted or whatever it is, you're experiencing second party trauma because now you're reliving that experience with them. That might mean that you need to seek professional help. If your physical health is declining, most times our physical health declines because our emotional health is not intact. And then it manifests itself in a physical symptom as opposed to an emotional symptom. Those are some of the
thank you. I think that's great. And if anybody's checking our chat, which I'm happy to look at right now, a lot of folks that are saying, you know, this shoe analogy Reverend Jeanne is excellent. And a lot of folks are, you know, really don't think that their pastor's qualified. And I don't think, you know, that, you know, I'm hearing that a lot. And I think that is not that's not a dig, or that's not just because I'm married to a pastor, but that's just not, you know, it's not, you know, it's not anything that is negative or derogatory, but right. What it is we all need to know. It's kind of like when you first join a church and everybody wants, you know, and you're a brand new baby Christian and everybody tries to get you to join the usher board, the this board, the that board, you know, before you even had an opportunity to figure out what your, you know, where God is leading you, what your gifts are. It's just like you with your pastor. That, you know, that is not his lane. His lane is to give you that spiritual advice, and then if it looks like you need something outside his or her purview, then they need to refer you out.
Absolutely. I liken that. Sorry, I liken that to if you go to a soul food restaurant, you're not looking for Chinese food.
There you go. I like that. Simple.
Soul food.
Right?
And they don't.
Right? I like it.
And don't mix it up. And the same with pastors. They specialize in certain things, and it's our responsibility to ask them, have you trained in mental health therapy? If they say no, if they're not a licensed clinical social worker or marriage and family therapist or a licensed professional counselor, then mental health might not be their strong point. Spirituality is absolutely their strong point. But just like you're not going to go to a soul food restaurant and order Chinese food. It's just not, you're not going to be happy.
Right.
That's so true.
Right. Why do you think, and then Stacy and Anita chime in as well, why did you think there's been a shift in thinking? I mean, all of us are educated, we're successful women in our careers. Why don't you think that there's been a shift in thinking after all this time?
Why don't I think, or why do I think? I think there has been a shift in thinking because, well, you know, I'm in the field of education, and now we see a lot of the yoga, the mindfulness training, a lot of things that help our children to address mental health instabilities and to help them to self-regulate their emotions and their behaviors and identify when they're feeling, you know, anxious and those types of things. So I think people are being more receptive to the idea of getting help for mental health because we've been faced with so many mental health issues and then calling it what it is. instead of sugarcoating it or trying to cover it up or trying to make it something that it isn't, just calling it what it is and taking the first steps to try to address it.
Right,
Absolutely. One of the people logging in said that back in the day in the South, they used to call it going through the change.
Right.
And that's a diversion from really dealing with what's going on internally with the woman. And that gives a woman an excuse to not seek mental health. Okay, well, I'm just going through the change, so this too shall pass and move on, which is not helpful.
I'm just going to pray about it. God will work it out.
Right.
Jesus will fix it. Fix it, Jesus. Fix it.
Yeah, he'll fix it by referring you somewhere if
Right.
you are open to the Holy Spirit speaking to you on that.
Right.
So you don't drive the rest of your family crazy.
Right. Or you're not making I was just self-identify when I first started going through the change. Everybody was scared of me at home, so we had to go. So we had to go and add some alterations to that.
Yes.
Oh no, she's coming, y'all.
She's coming. Oh, but KG touched on that too. KG in our chat said, and a part of being prayerful is to help you trust your wisdom and discernment in regard to finding a therapist is that's a good fit for you. Even dealing with referrals, those things are important to note and be mindful of. So
yes, I feel like yes, very much so. Yep, very much so. And with that, so thank you, Jeanne, for that. I think at this point, let's go on and we'll segue into Pretty. See, I tried to talk slower.
I know. I caught on to that. I caught on. I was like, oh, she said pretty and paused. I said, oh, it's showtime.
that's your cue.
Segue.
So are we going into Pretty Tea?
We are going to Pretty.
So I read an article, and it was actually upon several things on why I am going to talk about what I'm going to talk about. So I saw a viral video. I guess you could say viral. A little girl getting her hair combed by her mother, and she was saying, "I'm ugly." And then the mom was like, "What?" She was like, "No, I'm ugly." And she was just like, "Why do you say that?" And she said something about her skin and about her hair. And so that really struck me and really, pulled that, because that's something that, as little girls should not even have to think about things like that. So I'm just going into, we wear these masks and we put our hair so we wear this makeup, and now that a lot of us don't have that outlet in the beauty and to keep the beauty upkeep, now we're left with our regular selves. We're left looking, going to the natural. And so I only can speak for, the natural. Like, I don't wear too much makeup, but I know personally for myself, hair has been a huge struggle for me a long time. And so I know, a lot of us.
I feel your pain, sister.
We hide behind things. I hide behind my hair, what hair I have, but, I was queen of straightening my hair. I straighten. You would never see my hair in its natural state ever until, in the last few years, I started to embrace my natural. My sisters, they always have embraced their natural curls and natural hair, and it's their thick, luscious hair. But the more they wore that out, the more their hair lived and grew. And I was like, why can I do that? Why can I feel comfortable in my own hair? Why can't we do that? Because I still know women to this day that still, refuse to wear their hair out natural, refuse to do any of these things, refuse to wear no makeup outside. I have a girl at work, she's like, I can't wear no makeup outside. I'm like, why? Why not? She's like, no, I don't want people to see me. I'm like, girl, it's that deep. And I didn't realize I didn't realize how deep it is. Like, how comfortable are you with your natural self?
No, I think you bring a great point up because, I've been lamenting about my hair, for the last, since March. But one thing, like you were talking about your natural self is because I'm out of, I have to go to work every day. We're deemed essential is you can't really wear a lot of makeup because you got a mask on. So, you keep wearing that makeup, it just ends up on your mask, anyway. So,
Right.
I just really focus on just making sure I keep my skin, clean and moisturized because those masks also dry your face out.
Yes.
As well. And just really focusing on that. I mean, this is like the highlight of my 2 weeks. I get to wear lipstick because I'm sitting at home and not wearing a mask. So, because
Right.
if you
I
go
get
out,
so
you go out, you're wearing a
excited to
mask. I know.
I get excited to put the Carmex on because, oh my gosh, I wear the mask.
Exactly. So, I think you did, Nita, it's so relevant, it's so pertinent, is that, why
do we have
are
to?
we not comfortable?
Yeah. Why do we have to do
Right.
that? And I was thinking, I was like, you know what? You have some certain women that, they were in the professional setting, they work in an office job, and they, their natural hair bothers people.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like,
Mhm.
that should not be a thing. I was like, and I had to think about myself too. And I was like, you know what? I said that when I started wearing my hair natural to work, they was like, oh my God, Anita, you look different. You look this. I'm like, I shouldn't. I mean, that's the certain type of attention wasn't the type of attention that one should
No,
get because
it's
they changed their
the
hairstyle.
different is what they're
Yeah.
talking about.
And they're
And
different.
I mean, and
It's
that's
music.
that's why there's the
It's
Crown Act.
uncomfortable.
That's why the Crown Act was passed because of so many of us were getting harassed and
Right.
treated harassed and humiliated and treated like we're in the petting zoo. Everybody wanted to touch our hair.
Right, they want to touch it. I'm like,
Ooh. Yes.
and then we mad because we got to add to, but they want to touch it. I'm like, no, this is not for you to touch on.
Or ask
I'm
questions
like, can I
about
touch your hair?
how often you shampoo your hair.
Oh my!
How do you wash
Wait.
your hair every day?
I get
It's so
that.
fascinating.
I get that very, very often. I said that this should not be a question, and I have to turn around and walk
Right.
away.
Right.
Right.
said,
I'm like, I'm
Now
not really
you
comfortable
went-
sharing my personal hygiene routine with you.
With you.
Like, how often
Right.
do you shower? Like,
Right.
that's like asking somebody that. Like that's.
I went natural when I
What's that, about a year ago? Was it a year or two ago when you started going natural, Jeanne?
I went natural 10 years ago, but I just
No, I'm talking about
dreaded my
when
hair
you did the
9 months ago.
No, okay.
I dreaded
And
started dreadlocks 9 months ago. And I have to tell you, I work in the professional arena and they are really tripping, but I'm really liberated because I don't have to be concerned. Hot flashes and my power flashes and all, but it was a stigma. I really had to check myself and not be worried about what they were gonna think, knowing that this was the best for me. So yes, I went through a phase of feeling really uncomfortable, but I had to work through that with me.
Right.
And quite honestly, I couldn't even go to therapists because no therapist that I know has to work me through it. So that was that was the inside job for me.
Right.
And a lot of even mental, it's an inside job. We can do everything on the outside and still feel inside. And so it really comes from the inside out. And that's where the spirituality helps the process.
Right. And it does, because I had a real come to Jesus meeting with myself, and I was just like, no, I can do this. Like, why is it such a hard thing for me to do? And why am I so worried about what other people think and why my hair is different today or for the next whatever. And I said, I felt so good after doing it. I was like, wow, like this is not hard. Like, it shouldn't even be a conversation. This is how my hair is. It's how I was born. I'm going to rock it anyway. You got to find what works for you. I had to find what products work for me. I had to find what styles work for me. And I feel like as Black women of color, we can rock thousands of hairstyles.
And we can
should, Right. And that should make us more magical. And that's what makes us more magical and more unique, because we can have all these hairstyles.
Mhm.
And that's fine, you know? I was
That's,
like,
yeah, absolutely. You know, I don't go to the shop, so I go to
and
the
I love
shop
your natural hair.
once
I
every-
I love
love
your natural hair,
so
though.
much.
It's a lot, though. That's a whole nother subject.
Yes,
But
it
I
is.
saw, speaking on the subject of, you know, we're wearing the mask and we're keeping the and we're having to deal with skin issues under our mask. Well,
Mhm.
today I was watching Good Morning America, and I decided, you know, how they do the small businesses. And so one of the small businesses they had on today is called Black Girl Sunscreen. So I did buy the product. So if you guys get a chance to visit, support our sister. It's a sister girl. She has what's called Black Girl Sunscreen. It's specifically made for our skin. And it has SPF 30 for the adults and SPF 50 for the children. And it's on sale for 50% off today. So
Ooh,
Oh.
okay.
Morning America
Stacey,
deals and
Send me that
steals.
link, please. Run me that link.
Yes. You have to text that out to all of us. The
Yes,
Black Girl
yes.
Sunscreen.
Because actually, I
Yeah, I know,
Black
that-
Girl Sunscreen.
BlackGirlSunscreen.com.
I mean, and think about that. That was on national television. How many times do you see our products, you know,
That's why I was
advertised
so
on
excited.
on national television?
Yes, that is a
That's why I was so
praise
excited.
for
I was like, even if I never use it, I'm buying it. I'm
I'm
Right,
buying it.
exactly.
itself. Right. I'm rooting for everybody black.
Exactly.
Tell the truth.
Exactly.
That's right. There's not. You don't see no black-owned products on TV. Isn't that crazy?
Mhm.
Remember
No.
we used
And
to
you
see all the
should see the
Coppertone
ads.
commercials?
Yeah,
What
but you
commercial?
should see
The
the
Coppertone ones when
Oh, yeah.
the dog would pull the little girl's
Mhm.
pants down. You'd see that, and the two-tone. Yeah, you didn't
Right.
see. Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Well, you
Yeah,
should
you
see
didn't
the
really see
black
because of
for the
us.
Black Girl Magic sunscreen.
Mhm.
Cody my son was watching it with me, and we were sitting back there and we were just cracking up. They had black little children, black women. It was just so
Aw.
cool to see them advertise this on Good Morning America.
Right.
I was super excited to go online and purchase some products in support of our
Mhm.
sister.
Get my sunscreen.
Well, for those of you
Yeah.
that are watching us, Stacy did type it in the chat, so you can go to that website if you want to support them as well. So this hour has passed by so fast. We've got about 3 more minutes for us to kind of wrap everything up for today. I mean, I think this was. I thank you so much, Reverend Jeanne Taylor, for coming on and being our special sister today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What was that that you had mentioned a book, Reverend Jeanne?
Yes, it was
the body.
The Body Keeps Score. It's a really good book that I'm currently reading because I am a survivor of sexual abuse. And so what happens is our body holds the negative energy that we have endured throughout our lives, physical, emotional, and sexual trauma. And this book actually explains how, by a psychologist, how you can start to release some of that energy so that you're not confined and constricted in your movement, emotionally, physically, or sexually, because our subconscious holds on to things. And so I would recommend everyone to read simply because you become more informed about how your body holds negative energy and prevents you from different things that you would like to enjoy or do or participate in, even as far as exercise, because sometimes our body has so much trauma that prevents us from flexibility and movement. And so I recommend The Body Keeps Score.
Body keeps score.
Body keeps.
Okay, well, that's good. That's great. I mean, I think there's always there's always an opportunity to read something or hear something or say something to someone that could be hopeful. And I think it's also just very important for us to be, we talk about mindfulness, but we don't always use that for our to think about what past trauma could do, for us. So with that, we got about 60 seconds or so. So our word of positivity this week, positivity. Our word of positivity this week is hope. So until we meet again, until we meet again in 2 weeks, our word is hope. Our next segment will be, we are on people were texting me last week, where's Sister Chat? Where's Sister Talk? So we're on every other week. So our next time will be on June 11th. And our special guest will be our own Ms. Dawn Comer from Ward AME Church. So once again, thank you all of our sisters for participating. Just one last thing is we will see you next time, and we want you to be encouraged and encourage love. God bless each and every one of you, and we will see you all in 2 weeks. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.